Hey guys, it's Wade. Today what we're going to do is we're going to take this old beat up Super Cub and we're going to convert it to a brushless motor system in ESC. So currently what it has now, see if we can get on in there and see, probably not, it has your standard brush motor that comes on your Super Cub. So with the help of customrcparts.com, we've ordered a motor mount. Now you can see that thing is spectacular. Let me pick that up for you. But this thing is amazing. Nice quality billet aluminum construction. Comes with all the fasteners and the instructions and everything you need. So we're going to install the motor mount. I've got a 480 brushless motor from the ParkZone P51 and an 18 amp ESC with our EC3 connector so that we can connect up the batteries that I already have. It's actually going to use the standard battery that we already use, the 1300 milliamp 3S battery from ParkZone. So we're going to begin. Now you can see that I've taken the wings off just to make it a little bit easier. You have to take the wings off anyways to get to the insides. Alright, I'm going to leave it three channel for now. So it's just going to be operating on rudder and elevator. And then maybe later I'll do a video on clipping the wings and having ailerons installed. So we're going to get started. First thing that we need to do is remove the prop and the spinner and the cowl. And what you're going to do is basically just pop the spinner off and that just pulls straight off. Alright, you're going to have to work it because it's on there kind of tight. And then I'm going to unscrew, there's a little nut underneath of there, just unscrew the nut and then the prop will come right off. Now once the prop is off, what I'm going to do is use these three screws. Alright, there's one on the other side too. We're going to unscrew it and the cowl will come off. Alright, so once I get the cowl off, I'll get back with you and explain what we're going to actually do after that. Okay, now I've got the cowl off, so this is the gearbox and motor setup. Basically to get the gearbox and motor set up, there's two screws on this side. And then if you look on this side, there's two screws over there as well. We're going to remove those screws, and then you're going to have to take the wires to that hole and pull them out. Alright, and then you're going to have to disconnect them. If you look right here, sorry for the blurriness, it's really poor lighting today, but there's two connectors that you just disconnect and then pull the motor assembly completely out. So what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and pull that off, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Okay, so we got the motor off, pulled the wires through here. Alright, we disconnected these two connectors right there. Alright, now what we're going to work on next is we're actually going to pull the ESC and the receiver out. Now that's all one unit, so that makes it nice and easy. Down in there, there's just 4 little pressure clips. Just disengage the clips, and then you're going to pull the entire thing out. Alright, make sure you disconnect your servo leads before you do so, and then the whole thing literally should pop out. When you're pulling it out, be careful that your EC3 connector for your battery does not get snagged on there. You're also going to have to disconnect the export function. Alright, which is that cable right there. It's that long, fat, white cable with one gray cable. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect that, pull everything out, and we should have an empty fuselage. So as soon as I pull that out, I'll give you a shot on what it looks like. Okay, so now we've got the receiver out. It's very, very simple. It literally took me 10 seconds to pull everything out. We've got the receiver ESC combo out. I left that battery box in there just so it's in a stock configuration. And then we've unplugged everything and pulled it out, and you can see it just kind of laying back there. Alright, that's what it is. It should look like. Also, you're going to have to take the antenna out too. It's just taped to the inside of the fuselage. So the next thing we're going to work on is we're actually going to go ahead and mount the motor mount to the actual brushless motor, and we'll get started. I'll tell you what screws to use. Alright, so give me a second, let me get everything prepared, and we'll start mounting the motor to the motor mount. Okay, so we've got the motor mounted to the actual motor mount itself. Alright, now the cool thing about this is that the screws that come with it, you're gonna use the actual 4 screws that are in the packet. There's only 8 total, but you'll use the 4 screws that are in the packet that do not have the pointy end. Alright, and then you simply just screw them into the back like so, and I apologize for the bad lighting, but just screw them into the back like that. Alright, now be careful not to over tighten this, because keep in mind the mount for this ParkZone motor, if you're using the ParkZone motor, is plastic. So that's a great design on the ParkZone motor, the BL motor. Alright, so make sure that you don't over tighten it, just get it enough to be tight. If you want, I would recommend using some sort of Loctite to keep it in place, and then it should hold just fine. Alright, next what we're going to do is we're going to mount the actual motor that's on the mount to the firewall of the Cub. Now if you look really closely, this side is skinny. Alright, this side is skinny, this side is fatter. In the package, there's 2 different size screws. Alright, make sure you're using the long screws to mount it to the firewall on the thick side. And keep in mind again, you're screwing into the plastic on the firewall, so it's very, very thin stuff. Do not over tighten it. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and mount it, and then I'll get back with you. All right, so that went on without a problem. Now, you will notice when you put this on, the screws go right in without any issue. This thing is machined excellent. I mean, there's no issues, alignment issues, anything. All right, the screws will stop at a certain point. Don't over tighten them because that plastic is extremely thin. Also, don't put a lot of pressure on the firewall because the firewall is thin as well. Especially if you got a beat up Super Cub like mine. I mean, I've broken mine pretty much every 6 inches and half, and I've glued this thing back together with epoxy. So that's part of the reason why I'm getting rid of the brush motor, because it's not really the best motor in the world. So we've got that ready to go. Now it looks like I got it wired, but I really don't. I just kind of push those out of the way. All right, what I'm going to do is insert the ESC up above there. All right, that would be my suggestion, is go ahead and mount the ESC, pull the wires from the ESC through the hole, hook everything up, and then tidy up the wires when you're done. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the ESC. As soon as I mount the ESC, then I'll get back with you and let you know if I had any issues. All right, guys, so here it is. Went ahead and ran the ESC. You can see right down here, the ESC is sitting right to the right. All right. Down in there, I had to modify that hole a little bit because the cables on my ESC weren't long enough to actually go out, all right, from the actual motor itself to meet up. So what I did was I had to tape them all together in a cluster. I used a drill bit, pretty big one, and I just kind of hollowed out that hole in there. All right, so you can had a little bit more room to work with. I mean, it's pretty solid in there, so you don't got to worry about structural stability. I ran my ESC through. ESC is mounted along the side of the battery box. I ran the EC3 connector down into the battery bay, and I went ahead and hooked up my receiver. I'm just going to use a crappy little orange receiver. I mean, those things I've worked. I say they're crappy, but they've worked, and I've never had any issues with them. So went ahead and used that. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and install the cowl back on there. Now I'm pretty sure we're going to have to modify the cowl. Alright, so I'm going to install the cowl, and I'll let you know if we had any issues with the cowl. And if we did, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have to modify it like I said, I'll modify it and then I'll let you know what I did. Okay, so as you can see, I modified. Wait, no I didn't. They actually fit perfect right through that little hole for the actual collet. You might need to modify depending on what kind of collet you use or whatnot, but I've got a huge monster propeller on here I'm probably going to take off. I might even go goofy and put the giant spinner right here on there, but I just wanted to get it on there and function check it, see if anything's rubbing, and it's not. So that was it. I mean, that's probably one of the easiest builds and modifications I've ever seen. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the wings on, throw a battery in her, and we'll go out and do a flight video whenever the weather permits. So thanks again for watching Wade's RC. Again, this was the installation of the motor mount from customrcparts.com.